Hello everyone, today we are looking at CS gas and kind of the updates it's kind of gone through. Lately it's been really bad, but now with this new update with boiling point, it has been said that it's been better and updated and it's more effective against certain suspects, especially on hard mode. So we are just going to actually test out if those are true, what's different, what's kind of changed since then. In previous patches it used to be like 20 seconds. I am going to calculate when it is leaving my hands and then the duration of the deploy time. So the official times for the gas grenade thrown from your hand is it takes 4 seconds to deploy. It lasts for 20 seconds. So it's going to last 5 more seconds than all the other launchers. I think this is relatively fine for a radius. And then this one deploys much quicker. It deploys in like 2 seconds. So roughly about like half the time, I would say, from your gas launcher. And it seems to last about a total of 18 seconds, including its deploy time. And once again, pop as soon as it leaves. Takes 2 seconds to deploy. Same radius appears to be everything else. And it lingers for about 18 seconds. So 18 seconds for the rotary grenade launcher. Now, I did a couple tests with 23 megabytes going through and just kind of clearing as I go. And I was trying to just throw and kind of see, because I haven't really tested too much of the gas grenade out yet. And I just try to throw a few, see what's happening, kind of getting an understanding of things. And as you can kind of see, this was the case before this even happened, before the update. You would throw gas, and if there was a hostage, they would get stressed. And if they weren't affected by the gas, and even if they were affected by the gas before the patch, they would just pick up that hostage. So throwing gas when it's a hostage probably isn't going to be a good thing. It does create a little bit of chaos whenever you do throw gas grenades. Now, what do I mean by this? Now, obviously gas grenades fill up an area and it can kind of go through walls, which is kind of the benefit of a gas grenade. In a lot of ways, it kind of fills up areas where it's kind of lots of points of cover, or tiny little bits of exposure, or whatever, right? So it's a little bit more effective in areas where there's a lot of types of cover, or areas where there can't be like very clear-cut kind of visuals that you have. So in an area where there's a bunch of tiny little things in the way, gas grenades kind of excel really well. And I noticed that, as you can kind of see with some of these runs, some of the suspects would surrender while I wasn't doing anything or yelling at them, and they would surrender pretty quickly after the first time they got up. So they would surrender after me yelling at them a couple times. As they're on the ground, they would get up and then they would kind of surrender very easily again, kind of interestingly. I also tried like Valley of the Dolls and testing out a lot of this stuff. You do kind of need to throw those gas grenades correctly. I did also notice some weird things happening. I used the SDR site and it was very curious because I was looking and I did notice that there was this weird thing where when you were aiming through gas clouds from the gas grenades, they actually wouldn't be there. I'm not quite sure what makes it clear or not, but there were times where I was looking through a gas cloud and you could very clearly see through it, and then other times I couldn't see through it. To be clear, aiming down through the sight, through that scope, through that magnification. I assume it was based on how close you were. Further back, I noticed you could see through it a little bit better. And a lot of the time, obviously there are certain maps where there is guys with gas grenades, so you're not going to get a lot of value going against, you know, a lot of those enemies who have gas masks, but that's obviously pretty clear for a lot of people to understand that. So like Lethal Obsession, they I believe have gas masks. This has been updated or something recently. I mean, all the new maps, a lot of the time, they're going to have gas masks because obviously they're deploying gas. First and third level of the DLC for Boiling Point, they're going to have gas masks. Not everyone has a gas mask. Some do not have it. The guys that are more tactical, I believe, have it. Guys with the more gear and setup. Now, ultimately, what am I thinking about these gas grenades right now? Now, they can be very effective on hard mode. There are some different types of anomalies that you're going to have to consider when using gas grenades, though. I have been noting weird behaviors from suspects when I throw them, and if the suspects are unaware of the gas, aka it's not deployed directly in front of them or thrown at them, they don't appear to know of its existence. They do not appear to know about the gas grenade. It's not like throwing a flashbang. They hear it and they kind of respond to it. It is a little bit different. When they do see it being deployed, they can act very weirdly. I do recommend kind of using gas grenades at points of high activity. So if they are to run through, they're going to get hit by that gas, either return and retreat or push through, being staggered from it. Now, in the later map that you'll kind of see here in this video, I'll be going through a New America on hard mode. All these maps are on hard mode to be very, very clear. And there's some very weird behaviors I've never seen before. And I've been doing this map kind of recently, just with a lot of people. And mainly I've just been doing it relatively using by myself. And I have been noticing their reaction time is sometimes slower. Also, like the gas can affect them through walls on occasion. Also, whenever you throw gas, and this is kind of how it was before this update, they would sometimes blind fire at you. So whenever you are throwing gas grenades, you're probably going to do it from a place of safety. You don't want to be throwing a gas grenade, have enemies in that area be affected by that gas grenade, and then all of a sudden they're going to start shooting at you very aggressively and blind firing. You're going to want cover basically every single time they do that, because they're going to be pretty accurate most of the time whenever they're blind firing. When it comes to the behavior now, it does appear, and this is just anecdotal, of course, because I can't, it's going to be hard to, I'd have to do like tons and tons and tons of replications of this over and over and over again, and I just haven't been testing out them for that long to say for sure if this is the case, if this is an anomaly. But a lot of the time when I was using it in this testing, the suspects would act very, like they'd respond slower, and they didn't seem to notice me as much. And this was during a period of time where they hadn't seen me yet, supposedly, right? Where they're kind of like, they weren't on an active behavior or seeking behavior. I didn't ship any wires or anything. It was quieter, which was weird. And I would throw it I throw gas grenades before areas and before anyone could see me, but they would be alerted that there's, LAPD, and then they would kind of behave as if they didn't say that they spotted me. So it was kind of a weird phenomenon I'm not quite understanding yet. I have heard of instances of people saying whenever they are in a stationary firing position, their target acquisition for the suspects of shooting you is going to be slower. Now, I am aware of this, and it is pretty slow. It's not horrendously slow per se, but it can be pretty bad. But I'm not sure if that is this to a more extreme degree, maybe influenced by the gas grenades effect. But honestly, gas is pretty crazy when it comes to that occurring more frequently, I noticed, because every time I would go through it and use a gas grenade, have that suspect, I was kind of able to get away with things I wasn't normally able to get away with. So it was a little bit confusing to me when I was like, why does he not see me? I'm very clearly not leaning this corner very correctly. What's going on? And there were some weird instances where I couldn't explain why they were behaving the way they were behaving, because I had been killing them. I was using a suppressor during this period of time for testing, and there were times I would trigger laser tripwires and it wouldn't actually have too much of an effect on those suspects and how they behaved. Obviously, as I said, there are guys with gas masks. I haven't really fully been able to test it because it's a little harder to get those guys affected by gas, since the gas takes 4 seconds to deploy and they're always running around like maniacs, of course. But so what do I think about the gas overall now? So the gas grenades, they can be insanely effective on certain levels where you have points of cover. There's no rush for hostages. It's awesome for kind of like, no pun intended, like kind of smoking out an area, gassing out an area, letting them kind of move around and kind of just seeing what happens, so you can get a better idea of what's in the room, where they are in the room. You can hear coughing if they're affected by it. And most of the time, it does sometimes appear to be quieter than some grenades when deployed. Most of the time when you throw any type of grenade anywhere, usually there's some type of reaction within the rest of the map. When using gas grenades, I did notice this happening a little bit less. But if they were aware of the gas and I threw it at them and they saw me visually, they would obviously, as I said before, start capping hostages, for example, and this would keep happening constantly. It would almost increase the odds of them taking hostages and finishing them off. So I'm not quite sure how I feel about gas grenades right now. I am probably going to keep playing with them. They do take some level of patience. I've kind of said this in the previous video that was about the gas grenade, but they are kind of fun because they do provide a certain amount of safety. And as I said, you'll notice on a New America, they'll kind of like not see me when they should be seeing me. They'll be walking out of a door, and for some reason they just don't appear to see me or witness me, and I'm very clearly not in any crazy amount of cover that should like conceal them. And also there's this weird instance where I leaned over and shot this guy 3 times in the head. He just didn't die for some reason. I don't know what that was about, but aside from that, I assume they just have like head protection now, even though I haven't experienced that before. But anywho, so all this is to say, I do think gas has improved in terms of its quality and its usage. It's probably not going to see a lot of use in team play unless you have like a dedicated team all dedicated to running gas or something, or you know, a coordinated team just for at least so you can utilize it properly, because it is not a thing where you throw and kind of go. It's a thing where you kind of throw it, you wait, you chill for a while, you let it affect, you listen, and then you're pushing. You're like, okay, this is kind of safe. Or like I'm throwing it defensively around a corner. So if they do push me, they're going to have a disadvantage because they can't shoot me because they'll be affected by the gas, right? So this is probably what gas is going to be primarily utilized for. It's not going to be utilized for throwing in a room, rushing in just because of its time to deploy. And when it comes to the type of gas grenade, thrown or launched out of a launcher, launched gas grenades are probably going to be really good for if you do want to kind of push a little bit more aggressively, because when you throw the gas grenade, it takes a long time to deploy. So a lot of the time they have a time to just not be affected. They have 4 seconds, which is a lot of time in Ready or Not, to just run away and not be affected by the gas. Now, I do notice they do retreat a lot, which is something interesting. A lot of the time that is a common behavior in the newer map, like A New America, and it does give you some level of, as I said, kind of protection already with if they decide to push you, because they'll be running into the gas. Obviously, if they have gas mask, that's going to be not going to be helpful at all. But generally speaking, I do think gas is in a better place now. I don't really see people using it. People are mainly using 9-bangs and like stingers. I've been noticing a lot of people have been using stingers a lot more. Now, when it comes to maps like the bank map, where there's just a ton of suspects, civilians primarily is what I'm getting at. A lot of the time, I was kind of surprised about how amazing it was to tell them to surrender. The constant level of gas affecting them was kind of crazy how effective it was. I kind of threw like, I think it was like 4 or 5 or something, and then I'd go around the side and then kind of let's yell at them. They were getting down from a very large distance, which is very interesting. So, I mean, it makes sense. Gas is commonly used versus civilians to kind of, you know, subdue them and for like riot control and stuff like that. It makes sense, and it's very effective in this game. It kind of like shows that more or less reality with it. And I noticed that once again, suspects weren't too great with firing back at me. I had a very easy time. They did not like snipe me from across the map how they usually do. It was insanely easy, and I got those suspects down very quickly without even entering. And I'm talking about from very, very, very far away. I was surprised at its effectiveness. Now, it's probably going to be super good for situations where there's just a bunch of guys everywhere. You know, you throw gas at every kind of door or corner, and it really does help you control certain areas very effectively. And obviously, if you get suspects that have weapons, then, you know, you're going to affect them too, and you can kind of more safely enter an area kind of when it comes to something like this, where there are a lot of civilians, there are a lot of suspects. You're going to kind of be able to discern who's who a little bit faster because of, you know, those civilians surrendering so quickly. But yeah, it made doing the bank map, and as I said, this is all on hard, very, very easy. And I did this solo really quickly, and I could have done it a lot quicker, but I was just kind of being safe and kind of trying not to die so I can, you know, show off these gas grenades and how they work. And there was a moment in Sins of the Father where I threw a couple gas grenades and I threw them. It was so awful. I was just somehow just hitting the lip of this doorway multiple times. It was really annoying. And you'll kind of see here, very interestingly, the suspects are just like, I have a flashlight on them. They should be able to see it. They should be reacting, and they're just not. And I'm very confused as to why. So I was a little lost, and I was not in cover. I'm chilling. They're not reacting to me. I don't know what was going on with this behavior. And this is like the perfect illustration of what I was kind of talking about. They would behave very strangely, and it felt like I was fighting enemies on standard mode for how slow they were reacting to me and their behavior. It was very odd. I don't know really what it was about, but I did throw some gas grenades very poorly, of course, but I don't know what this was about, quite frankly. But anyway, it is interesting to kind of point out these weird anomalies with gas grenades and my experiences with it. I might probably, as I said, I'm going to be testing more of this. If I find anything new, I'll probably talk about it. And as I said, when you throw gas grenades, sometimes you can see through it with your optic. I don't know why this is the case. It could be just a weird bug or glitch or something. But yeah, anyway, let me know what you guys think. Have you guys been playing with the gas grenades, or have you guys just been using 9 bangs? Let me know what you kind of think and how you feel about the gas now. Tell me if it's on standard or hard or casual, whatever you play on. Make sure you tell me what you know, what your experiences are depending on your difficulty, because obviously those things can change. I'm not sure the differences. All this testing was done on hard mode. As I said, everything you see here with the footage is all done on hard mode. I think I will be using gas more often just to kind of get a better sense of it. At some point I will be testing like 9 bangs versus flashbangs, kind of comparing and seeing what differences really are, if it's worth even using 9 bangs, or if flashbangs are still just, you know, really strong. And I'll probably be talking about stingers sometime in a future video maybe as well, depending on the interest of everyone watching. So anyway, that is going to be it for the video. Thank you for watching and have a good day.